my pretty little Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. I said I welcome in it's closing time. I was holding a hand was holding mine. Our coats both smell of smoke, whiskey and wine. We fill up her lungs with the cold air of the night. I walked her home, then she took me inside. Finished some Doritos and another bottle of wine. I swear I'm gonna put you in a song that I write about a Galway girl and a perfect night. She played the fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in just wanna dance, my pretty little Galway girl. She played the fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in love with an Englishman. Kissed her on the neck and then I took her by the hands. And baby, I just wanna dance. I met her on Grafton Street, right outside of the bar. She shared a cigarette with me while her brother played the guitar. She asked me, what does it mean? The Gaelic ink on your arm. Said it was one of my friend's songs. Do you want to drink on? She took Jamie as a chaser, Jack for the fun. She got Arthur on the table with Johnny riding a shotgun. Chatted some more, one more drink at the bar. Then put Van on the jukebox, got up to dance. You know she played her fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in love with an Englishman. Kissed her on the neck and then I took her by the hands. And baby, I just wanna dance with my pretty little Galway girl. You're my pretty little Galway girl. You know she beat me at darts and then she beat me at pool, and then she kissed me like there was nobody else in the room. As last orders were called was when she stood on the stool after dancing to Kaylee, singing to trad tunes. I never heard Garrick Fergus ever sung so sweet. A cappella in the bar using her feet for a beat. Oh, I could have that voice playing on repeat for a week. And in this packed out room where she was singing to me. You know she played her fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in love with an Englishman. Kissed her on the neck and then I took her by the hands. And baby, I just wanna dance, my pretty little Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. Well, now we'd all said our welcome and it's closing time. I was holding a hand was holding mine. Both smell of smoke, whiskey and wine. As we fill up her lungs with the cold air of the night. I walked her home, then she inside, finished some Doritos and another bottle of wine. I swear I'm gonna put you in a song that I write about a Galway girl and a perfect night. She played the fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in love with an Englishman. Kissed her on the neck and then I took her by the hands. And baby, I just wanna dance, my pretty little Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. Hey! She played the fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in love with an Englishman. Kissed her on the neck and then I took her by the hands. And baby, I just wanna dance. I met her on Grafton Street, right outside of the bar. She shared a cigarette with me while her brother played the guitar. She asked me, what does it mean? The Gaelic ink on your arm. Said it was one of my friend's songs. Do you want to drink on? She took Jamie as a chaser, Jack for the fun. She got Johnny riding a shotgun. Chatted some more, one more drink at the bar. Then put Van on the jukebox, got up to dance. You know she played her fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in love and then she kissed me like there was nobody else in the room. As last orders were called was when she stood on the stool, after dancing to Kaylee, singing to trad tunes. I never heard Carrick Fergus ever sung so sweet. A cappella in the bar, using her feet for a beat. Oh, I could have that voice playing on repeat for a week. And in this packed out room where she was singing to me, you know she played her fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in love with an Englishman. Kissed her on the neck and then I took her by the hands. And baby, I just wanna dance, my pretty little Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. Well, now we'd all said our welcome and it's closing time. I was holding her hand was holding mine. Our coats both smell of smoke, whiskey and wine, as we fill up her lungs with the cold air of the night. I walked her home, then she took me inside, finished some Doritos and another bottle of wine. I swear I'm gonna put you right about a Galway girl and a perfect night. She played the fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in love with it. Kissed her on the neck and then I took her by the hands. And baby, I just wanna dance, my pretty little Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. Hey! She played the fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in love with an Englishman. Kissed her on the neck and then I took her by the hands. And baby, I just wanna dance. I met her on Grafton Street, right outside of the bar. She shared a cigarette with me while her brother played the guitar. She asked me, what does it mean, the Gaelic ink on your arm? Said it was one of my friend's songs, do you want to drink on? She took Jamie as a chaser, Jack for the fun. She got Arthur on the table with Johnny riding a shotgun. Chatted some more, one more drink at the bar, then put Van on the jukebox, got up to dance. You know she played her fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in love with an Englishman. Kissed her on the neck and then I took her by the hands. And baby, I just wanna dance with my pretty little Galway girl. You're my pretty little Galway girl. Hey. You know she beat me at darts and then she beat me at pool, and then she kissed me like there was nobody else in the room. As last orders were called was when she stood on the stool, after dancing to Kaylee, singing to trad tunes. I never heard Carrick Fergus ever sung so sweet. A cappella in the bar, using her feet for a beat. Oh, I could have that voice playing on repeat for a week. And in this packed out room where she was singing to me, you know she played her fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in love with an Englishman. Kissed her on the neck and then I took her by the hands. And baby, I just wanna dance, my pretty little Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. Well, now we'd all said our welcome and it's closing time. I was holding her hand was holding mine. Our coats both smell of smoke, whiskey and wine, as we fill up her lungs with the cold air of the night. I walked her home, then she took me inside, finished some Doritos and another bottle of wine. I swear I'm gonna put you in a song that I write about a Galway girl and a perfect night. She played the fiddle in an Irish band, but she fell in love with an Englishman. Kissed her on the neck and then I took her by the hands. And baby, I just wanna dance, my pretty little Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. My Galway girl. Hey!
One of the exciting things about writing in sushi class is that I have Go down there. 10 seconds.
I'm getting that chug jug. I can hold my beer, dog.
You creep.
I don't give a fuck.
I'm spraying him. You got it. We're spraying.
I knocked one. Nice. There's 5 seconds. There's no way he'll get the rest. We gotta go up the mountain. Boombox, boombox.
Someone threw
go up. Oh no, I can't move.
I get these, chat. I pop these.
Yo, I don't know if you can follow me, Tom.
Bro, I'm trying to find my way. Just a small town boy.
I'm following Tim.
Trying to go up on the mountain.
Yeah, I'm chilling, yo.
Yeah, I'm with Tim.
What the f?
I got a guy in me.
Where at?
He's right above us.
Alright.
Let's rotate in. You ready? Let's get out of here.
Just a city boy.
Yeah, I got a nice rotate.
That motherfucker trying to get the match, dude.
Oh,
Hey, what's up, buddy?
hit the direction where you gotta calm down. That was not your boy.
Okay, I'm lagging. Home. Bro,
Wait, what?
oh, what?
What was that?
What the f was that, dude? I went to hell and back, and that is how I fucking died? Bro, what the f do you mean, dude? I sweat my tits off, and I literally... And that's how I fucking die, bro. I'm done. Bro, if that ain't the game telling me to go the f to bed, bro, I don't know what is, dude.
Yeah.
I'm fucking pissed.
Unfortunately,
What was that?
I'm fucking. I'm
so
upset, dude.
Bro, I'm just gonna head to bed.
I'm fucking upset, dude. I'm just gonna go fucking cry, dude. I don't know what else to say, dude. I'm just gonna go cry.
Dude, I can't believe how we lost this game, yo.
Yeah.
Send me up! Send me up! Oh, I have no more. I don't have any more. Here, I got 6 more. Here. Here's another grappler. Let's go. What do you think this guy's thinking? Go? Send me?
Wait, I can't say you straight up. You just gotta come a little lower.
Come here.
Wait, what? What kind of angle is this?
Send me up.
Dude, what kind of angle are you trying to get?
No, he's falling!
All right, come on, get
Go, go, go!
Jump!
Come on!
I'm trying, bro.
Get down here, Jimmy! Come on, send me up! Give me the grappler. Give me the effing grappler, you bot. Give me this. Go.
Where is he?
Under you!
He's down. He went all the way down.
Better have some. Better hope he has some materials.
We're blowing up the fortress.
Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at The Birds 2, Land's End. Just kidding, we're looking at Bird Box, released on Netflix in December of 2018. I don't know what was in the water this past holiday season, but I have never seen a movie get more requests for a kill count than Bird Box. Seriously, y'all wouldn't shut the hell up about it. So just for you, I figured out a way to legally get Netflix movie files in an editable format so I could cover this damn thing. So don't say I never did nothing for you. Bird Box is based on a 2014 novel by Josh Mallerman that takes place in a world where people have to blindfold themselves whenever they're outside, lest they see the horrific supernatural beings floating about that are so magnificently awful they cause the beholder to commit suicide. It's superficially similar to A Quiet Place, denying the characters of a sense to survive, but it is worth noting that the novel Bird Box came out years before A Quiet Place was made. It's also worth noting that this movie is just okay. I can't for the life of me understand why it got so popular so fast, other than, I guess, the memes. As far as the movie itself goes, it's a bit too long and pretty poorly paced, and it doesn't explore all of its intriguing ideas in the most satisfying way. But that's not to say I hated it either. I still found it to be a mostly fun watch, helped by the excellent cast headed by Sandra Bullock. How many kills, self-inflicted or otherwise, took place during this mediocre movie? Let's find out and count them up. The movie begins with my girl Sandy B talking to a couple of kids about an upcoming family vacation that's about to have some real intense rules.
Under no circumstance are you allowed to take off your blindfold. If I find that you have, I will hurt you.
And don't even think about asking me to pull over for a potty break. The kids, who she calls boy and girl, are instructed to never say a word, and Sandy stresses the point that if they look without a blindfold on, they will die. They grab a couple of birds and stick them in a shoebox, then head outside with their blindfolds on and follow a string to a canoe that Sandy has stored on the riverbank. And then they're off on a fantastically dangerous, sight-not-seeing adventure. We cut to 5 years earlier, where we find Mallory, Sandra Bullock's character, painting in a studio apartment. She and her sister Jessica, played by American Horror star Sarah Paulson, watch a news report about how a senseless mass suicide epidemic is spreading from Romania to the rest of Europe and also, like, everywhere else. Not a great world to bring a baby into, which is bad news for the pregnant Mallory. During a visit to check on the baby with a woman named Dr. Lapham, we learn how much Mallory is not looking forward to being a mother. She's even considering adoption, Blue Flower. On her way out of the hospital, she witnesses a woman she had noticed earlier wearing a very burnt orange tracksuit, now smashing her noggin against the glass window. Looks like the suicide epidemic has landed stateside, and although we don't see the final moment of this girl's life, her persistence and the loud crash we hear as Mallory runs away makes me feel pretty secure in putting her on the list. Mallory gets in the car with Jessica and tells her the suicide sickness is here, but that's pretty obvious to anyone not wearing a blindfold, because there'd be vehicles crashing and police scrambling everywhere as the sisters try to get out of there and get back to someplace safe. Although we see some explosions and plenty of crazy violence, we don't get any definitive deaths amidst the chaos. That is, until the usually cheery Jessica is suddenly overcome with a look of pure dread and falls silent as she drives her car into a kick-ass slow-motion vehicle flip. Oh, and it's a perfect 180 rooftop landing. Nice job, Jess. Mallory pulls herself from the wreckage and watches as her sister casually walks into the street, gives her one last look of sadness, then steps in front of an oncoming garbage truck. Man, now Cuba Gooding Jr. is gonna get away with murder for sure. Mallory is left alone as more explosions and car crashes happen around her, and I'll just go ahead and include this one dude on the count since he's either dead or a NyQuil driver. And it ain't NyQuil driving time. As Mallory is knocked to the ground by the hordes of people fleeing invisible terror, a woman named Lydia goes to help her, despite her husband Douglas telling her there's no time to be a good Samaritan. Sure enough, right as she reaches Mallory's side, Lydia begins to hear voices. Mallory is helped up by another dude, Tom, as Douglas watches through a window his wife Lydia climb into a burning vehicle and die in the ensuing explosion. Man, I can't believe Lydia did that. Tom and another woman, Lucy, help Mallory get to safety inside the home of Greg, a character played by B.D. Wong who's not a little prick like Henry Wu. They join a sizable group of others seeking shelter, including a sweet-looking older woman, a rapper who's got beef with Eminem, and an employee of TS motherfucking A. He handles shit. After briefly entertaining the idea that this could be some kind of biowarfare attack, they realize that all these suicides going on are actually resulting from the victims having seen something.
If you look at it, it makes you crazy or it makes you want to hurt yourself?
No, it makes you kill yourself.
Either way, better break out the blackout curtains right about now. After the TV signal joins the phones in going down, Tom tends to Mallory, who tells him about her sister's suicide, as well as what that Lydia lady was saying before she died.
And then she started talking to her mom.
That woman was my wife, and she wasn't talking to her mother. Her mother's been dead 10 years.
Don't get too intrigued by that aspect of these monsters, though, because it's one of many things this movie doesn't bother exploring further. Later on, while Mallory and her bun in the oven are enjoying a prime sleeping spot, safe away from the spooky shadows outside, the movie briefly flashes forward again to her, boy, and girl rolling on the river. But nothing really happens in this flash forward, and honestly, I think it's pointless for this movie to have two timelines like this. It kind of takes away from the storyline in the house, knowing where Mallory and these kids are gonna wind up. When the movie jumps to the past again, we get a Purge-like pickup of 5 bodies to add to the count. Victims who apparently weren't able to make it to Greg's porch, and instead died outside his very cozy-looking house. Damn, that place like a comfy cottage on the corner. It's been a few days now, and a radio broadcast is telling survivors what to do and what not to do.
As long as you don't look at those things,
You should be fine. They hear a knock at the door, and after Mallory takes a defensive position with Douglas's shotgun, Tom agrees to let the woman pleading on the other side of the door inside the house. This woman, Olympia, is also pregnant, which is bad news for the group since they're already low on food supplies.
Great, now we can all starve here in the maternity ward.
Greg gets an idea to use his house's security cameras to see what's going on outside, reasoning that if they're just watching whatever's out there on a digital screen, it may not be as lethal as looking at it directly. This guy eclipses. They strap him to a chair to protect him from himself, and after everyone leaves the room, he turns on his security cameras for the boringest binge watch of all time. While he does that, everyone tends to their various needs, whether it be prenatal pills, drops of alcohol, or eyefuls of booty.
Not a chance.
The world's ending, baby, so you never know.
Before long, Greg sees some leaves blowing and a scary shadow appear on his camera feed, and it becomes obvious that, digital image or not, whatever he's looking at is leaving him pretty messed up. And so, after the others enter his office to find him thrashing around, Greg kills himself by knocking over his chair and breaking his head open against a stone mantle. Damn, dude survived numerous outbreaks of murderous dinosaurs, but couldn't make it through a single marathon of security cam footage. Another night comes, and with it, some character development. Olympia and Mallory become pregnancy pals, Mallory walks in on that Felix dude machine gunning that Lucy chick, and Tom strikes up a flirty friendship with Mallory, because damn, he looks good in the moonlight. Back to the future, Marty, where Mallory is with Mallory, because Felix dude machine gunning that Lucy chick, and Tom strikes up a flirty friendship with Mallory, because damn, he looks good in the moonlight. Back to the future, Marty, where Mallory is 14 hours into her riverboat adventure with those kids. They hear a dude yelling out that he wants to help them and that they should remove their blindfolds, which is cause enough for Mallory to pull out a gun and wave it around blindly. The riverman accosts her and screams at her to take her blindfold off, sounding all sorts of crazy.
I've seen what? I've seen the truth!
Although he assures Mallory that what he's seen is beautiful, she knows that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and right now, she be holding a machete. A couple of swings to the shoulder and neck leave the riverman bleeding and screaming after her as she paddles away. And since he sinks below the surface, I think it's safe to put this crazy SOB on the count. In our first kill, that's actually a murder. Back at Greg's boarded up house, the survivors have finally run out of food, and this dude Charlie, played by Get Out's Lil Rel Howery, suggests that they try to restock from the grocery store he works at. To get there, they have to black out all the windows of their vehicle and rely solely on this Jeep's GPS. GPS? You know, like Jeep PS? During their drive, we see 2 rotting corpses in the street, so I'll go ahead and add them to the count. Oh, and they're a nasty crunch as they drive over them too.
Just a speed bump.
Yep, just a speed bump. A fleshy, bone-filled speed bump. At one point, some spooky noises outside and the HUD on the dashboard indicate that their vehicle is completely surrounded, and the shadows that pass overhead indicate that the suicide-inducing creatures are paying them a visit. But they're able to weather the storm and follow the GPS into the parking lot of the grocery store, where they stick a crash landing.
You have arrived.
They carefully leave the vehicle and make their way inside the store, where Douglas wastes no time heading straight for the essentials. We get some character development when Mallory and Tom talk about how they grew up in towns that weren't too far away from each other.
Could have been your babysitter.
My hot babysitter.
You're only saying that because we're all gonna die.
Nah, Sandy, he's saying that because you fine, girl. Mallory finds those birds that will eventually be her whitewater rafting companions, and Tom picks up some equally pragmatic walkie-talkies. Wait, what the fuck are birds and walkie-talkies doing at a local-looking grocery store? That shit ain't Costco. Dougie Doug says they should just stay at the store where they have everything they need, but Mallory refuses because she doesn't want the others still at the house to starve to death. Before this debate can get going properly, though, they hear a pounding on the other side of a door that goes to the loading dock, and Charlie recognizes the voice on the other side as a co-worker. This co-worker, nicknamed Fish Fingers, starts to rave and scream about how he wants them to see what's outside, and the birds go nuts as a warning, like their coal mine progenitors did in days of yore. As the altercation escalates, we see another couple of bodies lying dead out in the loading dock, so we'll throw them on the count, even though I can't determine the gender of the one in the back, meaning our pie chart's gonna have a spot of gray in it. Meanwhile, Fish Fingers is trying to fish finger blast his way inside the store, but before he can force the door open entirely, Charlie plays the reluctant hero and charges at him, knocking both of them out into the loading dock as Lucy and Tom close the door behind them. We hear Double F tell Charlie to look out at the beautiful sights he sees, and then we hear a sharp stabbing sound and see a bunch of blood flow underneath the door. Looks like Charlie has expired past his shelf date, and we know that it's Charlie's blood for sure after we hear Fish Fingers continuing to plead as the others leave the store. That night, Douglas and Mallory share a drink and discuss whether assholes have a longer lifespan than the less douchily inclined. The best way to answer questions like that is with the field test. So Felix and Lucy pull a real doucher move and sneak out from the rest of the group, stealing the car and stranding the others so they can go live in sexual tatted up bliss together. Sometime later, as Mallory tries and fails to reach anyone on their supermarket radio, Olympia makes a judgment call and lets a new stranger into the house. He immediately prays at the altar of Mallory and her shotgun and introduces himself as Gary. Gary says he just barely escaped with his life after a group of psychotic people from a nearby mental institution, not wearing blindfolds, attacked the people he was with.
They took us outside and they forced our eyes open so that we would have to look at the creatures.
Although it's an intriguing tale, Douglas is less than sympathetic.
New guy, you had a great visit. We really loved meeting you. Now, fuck off.
But the non-assholes don't want to condemn Gary to death, so Cheryl smashes a vase over Douglas's head and they drag him out to the garage for some solitary confinement. You live here now, Duggadoo. A tearful Olympia tells Mallory that she only extended Gary the same favor they did to her, and then gets Mallory to promise her that she'll take care of her kid if anything happens to her. I guess it takes a Mallory to raise a village, or something like that. More time passes, and as this mostly happy family jams out to Dionne Warwick on the radio, Mallory has some stomach cramps that are quickly upstaged by Olympia's dramatic water breaking. But don't worry, Mallory, there's room for two at this water park. Everyone begins tending to these two ladies in labor, except for Gary, who puts on some classical music and takes out some drawings he's been working on. Say, what you got there, Gare Bear? Some eldritch horrors? Some scary pictures to show in the dark? That's nice. When Mallory gives birth to her little baby boy, Gary gets real excited. Why, he's even got a glint in his eye. That's cause Gary cray-cray, as evidenced by him flinging open the blinds like he's trying to evict a vampire. He knocks out Tom with some canned goods and then crazy eyes his way over to Douglas, who he exposes
Astro. Yeah. Sun is down, freezing cold. That's how we already know. Winter's here, my dog will probably do it for a Louis Bell. That's just all he know, he don't know nothing else. I tried to show him. Yeah. I tried to show him. Yeah. 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 Gone on you with the pick and roll. Younger flame, he in sicko mode. I got hoes calling under the phone. Where's Ollie? I be falling like a motherfucking pro. I be falling like my nigga Mo. Check class, I ain't the motherfucking job. Staff West, stay with the fucking pole. You fuck around and get pulled. Bitch.
A lot of people around this thing are dead. Vanished.
Got the eyes. You went and took me by surprise. Say what you wanna say, I won't go back. If you wanna hit the road, then let's go then. Let's just go and see the world and just show them what it really means to live life golden. Yeah, we're golden, golden. They can't ever break us down, cause we're golden. They about to see us glow, cause we're golden. Got the devil in your eyes. You went and took me by surprise. Say what you wanna say, I won't go back. If you wanna hit the road, then let's go then. Let's just go and see the world and just show them what it really means to live life golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see us shine, cause we're golden. They can't ever break us down, cause we're golden. They're about to see us glow, cause we're golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see us shine, cause we're golden. They can't ever break us down, cause we're golden. They're about to see us glow, cause we're golden.
Two kids, supposed to be home by 5:30, never arrived.
My job, there's no certainty.
Slam that boot. It's overloaded.
Radiation is frightening. At least certain types of it are. I mean, my Geiger counter doesn't go off near my mobile phone or the Wi-Fi router or my microwave. That's because a Geiger counter only measures ionizing radiation. That is, radiation with enough energy to rip electrons off atoms. And it's measured in units called sieverts. If you're exposed to more than 2 sieverts all at once, you'll probably die shortly after that. But we're exposed to low levels of ionizing radiation all the time. Bananas, for example, are rich in potassium, and some of that potassium is naturally radioactive. So when you eat a banana, you're actually exposed to about 0.1 microsieverts of radiation. That's 1/10,000,000th of a sievert. Let's use a banana for scale of radiation doses. You know, since people eat bananas, we become radioactive too. So you're actually exposed to more radiation if you sleep next to someone than if you sleep alone. But I wouldn't worry about that, because that dose is insignificant compared to the natural background radiation of Earth. I mean, there's ionizing radiation coming out of the soil and the rocks and the air and even from space. The level of radiation here in Sydney is about 0.15 microsieverts per hour. And that's about average globally. The level's usually between 0.1 and 0.2 microsieverts per hour. But there are places with significantly higher levels. So who on Earth do you think receives the maximum dose of ionizing radiation? Let's answer that question by going to the most radioactive places on Earth. Some places you'd expect to have high levels of radiation might surprise you. I'm in Hiroshima, and that is the Peace Dome. It was about 600 meters above that dome where the world's first nuclear bomb was detonated over a city. It was detonated there to have maximum destructive impact. With a level of radiation today, almost 70 years later, is only 0.3 microsieverts per hour.
I'm about to get into an elevator. We're going down the mine shaft. This is an old uranium mine.
This is the mine where uranium was discovered. It's also the place where Marie Curie obtained her raw material.
1.7 microsieverts per hour. It's about 10 times the natural background that you would have.
Nowadays, most of the uranium has been removed. But in this wall, there's still a small piece, and you can see under UV light, it fluoresces.
Look at that. Fluorescent uranium ore.
This is the lab of Marie Curie. She won 2 Nobel Prizes, one in physics and one in chemistry. And she conducted a lot of her work here. And this is her office. She would have sat right there. Apparently there are only a few parts of this area which are still radioactive. One is this doorknob.
Well, it climbs not much,
but that's like 10 times the background.
Yes. More than 10.
And another is the back of her chair. You can still detect alpha particles coming off this spot right here. Apparently after she was working in the lab, she would come, open the door, leaving traces of radium here, and then go and pull out her chair. Welcome to New Mexico. This is the Trinity bomb test site where the world's first nuclear bomb was set off. Right here, right in this spot. This whole area was vaporized. In fact, there was so much heat liberated by that bomb that it fused all of the desert sand into this green glass. And you can still find it here. They've actually named this mineral after the test. It's called trinitite. Yeah, this is the only place on Earth that this has ever been made. The level of radiation here is about 0.8 microsieverts an hour. The trinitite itself is a little bit more radioactive. I got readings of 2 or 3 microsieverts an hour off them. Now, which place has higher levels of radiation than anywhere we've seen so far? The answer is an airplane. You know, as you gain altitude, there's less atmosphere above you to shield you from cosmic rays. So the level of radiation inside the plane can go up to 0.5 microsieverts per hour at 18,000 feet, up to 1 microsievert per hour at 23,000 feet, over 2 microsieverts per hour at 33,000 feet, and over 3 microsieverts per hour at even higher altitudes and towards the poles. That is Chernobyl nuclear reactor number 4. It melted down on April 26, 1986. So what happened was so much heat was generated inside that reactor that it basically blew the top off, spreading radioactive isotopes throughout this whole surrounding area and over into Europe. And that is why we can still detect the contamination here today. Now right now it's reading around 5 microsieverts an hour. If I stayed here for 1 hour, my body would receive a similar dose to what you'd receive when you get a dental x-ray. So this is not a huge amount of radiation. And one of the reasons why the radiation level is not too high is because they actually removed a couple meters worth of topsoil from this whole area. Then they dumped it somewhere. That's why we can stand here. We're driving into the Fukushima exclusion zone now. I'm just watching as the levels on my Geiger counter go up as we approach the zone. See those black bags at the side of the road? The Japanese are doing now exactly what the people in Chernobyl did, collecting up meters and meters of topsoil. The mask is probably overkill. It's just to stop radioactive dust from getting into my lungs. This is definitely one of the most radioactive places where I've been. Even though the release of radioactive material was less than Chernobyl, only about 10%. Because it's much fresher, only 3 years since the accident, much less of it has decayed. So I've been getting readings up around 5 to 10 microsieverts an hour. And I think we won't be staying here for too long because of that. I'm about to go into the hospital at Pripyat. And this is where the firemen were taken after they fought the fires at the Chernobyl reactor. And in the basement of this building, they have left all of the firemen's clothing. Once they realized it was so contaminated, they chucked it down there.
That shoe? 80.
But you can see there's a huge pile of that gear there.
Right outside the door, I'm getting 500 microsieverts an hour just outside the door. 1,500 microsieverts an hour. You know, if we stayed here for a couple hours, we'd receive our annual dose of background radiation.
That basement was the most radioactive place I visited, and it's one of the most radioactive places on Earth. If I'd stayed down there for 1 hour, I would have received 2,000 microsieverts. That's a year's worth of natural background radiation. Every yellow pixel here represents a banana. Now that might seem like a lot, but consider that in a CT scan, the patient receives about 7,000 microsieverts. That's 3 years worth of natural background radiation. It's been estimated that the people living around Fukushima will receive an additional 10,000 microsieverts over their lifetime due to the nuclear power disaster. For comparison, US radiation workers are limited to a maximum of 50,000 microsieverts per year. But that's less than another occupation, astronaut. An astronaut on the space station for 6 months will receive about 80,000 microsieverts worth of radiation. But not even they are exposed to the highest levels of ionizing radiation. So can you guess who is? The answer is a smoker's lungs. A smoker's lungs on average receive 160,000 microsieverts worth of radiation every year. That's due to the radioactive polonium and radioactive lead in the tobacco that they're smoking. So not only are they exposed to carcinogens and toxins, they also receive very high levels of radiation. So it's not the people of Fukushima or Chernobyl or radiation workers or even astronauts who receive the highest doses of ionizing radiation. That honor goes to your ordinary, average smoker.
I guess I never miss her. You've got a boyfriend, I bet he doesn't kiss ya.